Hi there, I'm Linda, and today I want to show you how to make a square. Or you can make a rectangle, or you can make any multi-sided shape. This hexagon I made with 10 beads down each side, and it was a pretty tight fit. So just remember, the more sides you have, the bigger the piece is going to be. The hexagon measures 1 1/8 from each side. My square measures 1 inch around in diameter from side to side. I used my square to make this cute little bracelet, and I'm going to show you how to do this in another video. So for now, let's get started. I have my 6-pound fire line. I have my size 11 Delica beads. And then I have my size 15 teeny tiny little Delica beads. And we need these for the inside part of the square. And I also use them on the inside part of the circle so that it can fold back onto itself and make this 3D type of a piece. So for my square, or you could do a rectangle, you just need to know how many beads you want on each side. So for this size, I did 12 beads going on each side. So that was a total of 48 beads. So I have put 48 of these little 15-0 beads on my fire line. Of course, I have my stop bead because we've all been there where we've lost all the beads off the end of our project. I'm going to give you a word of advice. After you've put all those little beads on your string, go around and count them again. Make sure you have 48 beads, not 47 and not 49. Because if you make a round and get back to the end and you're one short or one over, you're going to be tempted to figure out a way not to have to rip that whole thing out. It is very frustrating. I have been there many times. Count the beads again and make sure you have the right number before you start on the next round. So I'm going to start in a circle. And I'm going to go back through the first bead. And then I'm going to start to peyote stitch. Again, still using these teeny little 15-0 black Delica beads. I am going to peyote stitch around this circle. And I know it's hard to see with these teeny tiny little beads, but my thread is coming out this bead. I'm going to skip this bead and go through the next bead. And it's gonna take a few beads before it starts to look like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna take another bead. I'm gonna skip the next bead, and I'm going to go through the second bead. So if you're familiar with peyote stitch, then this is not new for you. If you've never done peyote stitch before, then you might want to pause the video and go back to my website and look at the tutorials on how to do peyote stitch. So I'm going to do this row of peyote stitch all the way around this circle, and then I'll meet back up with you. Okay, so now I'm back at the end, and just a reminder, we're going to skip this bead, go through the last single bead, and then, it's hard to do with these teeny tiny little beads, and then we're going to go through that first bead from this row that we've worked on. That's the step up. And this is where I'm saying if you are short a bead it's easy to just say, oh, well, it's not important to do the step up, but at the end of the day, it really is. Okay, so now, remember I said I had 48 beads, so that's 12 beads for each side. And remember that we skip when we peyote every other bead. So when I go to do the sides, it's actually gonna be 6 beads, 6, 6, 6. So I have to decide when I come up and do this next round, I don't want to come up into a corner right away. I want to be in the middle of the side. I don't want to start the corner right away. So I'm going to go ahead and do, I have to do the corner on the 6th bead. So I'm going to do 3 beads for this side first. So it's going to be 1, 2, line went through that 2nd bead, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to make my first corner. So to do that, I'm going to put in 2 beads instead of 1 bead. So I have 2 beads are going to go in between those 2 little bitty beads. And you'll see it's going to make kind of like a corner. And now we're going to go down the next side. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then number 6 is my corner, so it's 2 beads. And then we do it again, next side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we need 2 beads for this corner. And I ran out of these. Okay, so the next side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 beads for this corner. Now I'm back at the original side that I started with. Here's the next corner. I already did 2 beads. So I have 3 more beads to do on that side. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do the step up through that next bead, the first bead of this round. So I have 5 beads, 2 beads in one space, 5 beads, 2 beads, 5 beads, 2 beads, all the way around. Okay, so now we're going to Go around again. But this time when I get to where I did those 2 beads together, oh, come on. Okay, so here it's a tight shot, but I did this bead in between these 2 beads. Now I have 2 beads here, so I need to put a bead in between here. Things don't always cooperate. Come on. And then in this corner, between these 2 beads, we're gonna add a bead. It's just gonna go in between those 2 beads. So we have the 2 beads we put the last round, and now I'm gonna put 1 bead in between those 2. And now I'm gonna keep on going around. 1 bead in between. Okay, so here's my corner. I did the 2 beads last round, and now I'm gonna sneak a bead in between those 2 beads. And it will all start to kind of pull on it a little bit. And you can see we're starting to make a square. Two, 3, 4. And what we've done too, because we've added beads into one space, now instead of doing 6 beads down each side, we're going to be doing 7 beads down each side. Okay, so there's that corner. All right, now for this round, what we've done now is added an extra bead in here. So now this is just going to be a normal peyote round all the way around. We don't do anything special on this round. Okay, so now I'm finishing this round. And now for the next round, you can see how the corner has now become a little bit rounded. And there's a lot of space between these 2 beads, these 2 corner beads. So again, what we're gonna do, we're basically gonna repeat the previous round where we're gonna put 2 beads in here. And then on the next round, we're gonna sneak a bead up in between those 2 beads. So we're going to start. Okay, now in the corner, we're gonna put 2 beads, and that's going to really start to square that off again. Okay, so we have the corner again. I have these 2 beads with a big distance between them, so I'm going to put 2 beads in between here instead of 1. And that will help to fill in that corner again. Okay, so now we're just going to repeat this process all the way around. Okay, now just a reminder, when you join 2 sides of peyote together, you have to interweave the 2 beads, which means you need an out bead going into an in bead, etc. So that means that when I put rounds on this side, I have to stop on the other side 1 round more or less. I can't do 5 rounds on this side and 5 rounds on the other side, because then all of these out beads will match up and you won't be able to weave them together. I'm bringing that up now because, for instance, on this square, I ended the first round with these gold beads. I later went back in and added the black beads, but the gold beads would be the next round on here. And then when I went and did the other side, I stopped basically at this round. So I hope I haven't confused you completely. So now I'm going to do the last round for this side, and I want to do it in a different bead color like I did those gold beads. So I'm going to do these lighter beads because I think they'll show up the best. So I'm going to do 1 round in this color. And in these corners where I had again done 2 beads together, I'm going to sneak 1 bead up in between them to make that corner. And now I'm just going to weave my peyote stitch around this side. In the corner, I have those 2 beads together, and I'm going to just sneak 1 bead in between the 2 of them to make that corner. And then just keep on going. Okay, now I'm finishing this row. Now I'm going to weave on over to this side. Right now it's the inside part. It doesn't really matter where I start over here. Again, I don't like to start near a corner. So I'm going to make my way over there. And I'm going to come out one of these out beads. And the important thing here is I need to work the corner in the same space that I worked it on the other side so that the corners line up. So I'm going to start my peyote like I did on the other side. This part is a little difficult to get to weave in. Okay, so now this was my original corner on the other side where I put those 2 beads, and that matches up between these 2 beads. So I've got one more bead to do here, and then I need to put 2 beads in between those 2 to match those 2 corners. Okay, so now I'm going to do 2 beads, and it's going to be a really tight fit. It's going to look kind of wonky for a round or 2 here. Okay, now I'm going to keep on going. Okay, so now I'm at the same corner. Pull this one bead, there we go. There's my 2 beads for this corner on that side, so now I need to put 2 beads on this side to match up the corners. Okay, so now I finished that first round on the other side, putting 2 beads into each corner. And so now I'm going to go around with the second round. And in this round, just like the first round, we're going to slip a bead up in between those 2 beads in the corner. So here's my corner 2 beads. Oops, these beads get real close together in here, so I got to make sure I don't skip that guy there. And this one, it's actually the top of those 2 beads where they're connected, so I need to go in down here. Now I'm in between those 2 beads. I'm going to slip a bead into that corner in between those 2 beads. And then I'm going to keep on going around down this side. And they get a little wonky, but when we get a couple of rows done, they'll start to fall into place. Oh, come on. Left that tail a little long, so it's getting caught up. Yeah, don't forget. Now, These are the two corner beads, and so we're going to slip a bead in between them. And keep on going that way all the way around. Okay, so now I'm on the next row and I'm coming up to the first corner, and it's just like on the other side. We have this big open gap between the two beads in which I'm going to put two beads. And that's going to make that corner for me there. And then I'll just keep on going down this side. Try not to skip any of these beads. They do get real tight in there. But we will be able to straighten them out. Okay, so I finished that round, and now I'm just gonna kind of push the beads out. And you can see it's really starting to take shape here. So I have another round to do. Okay, so now we're back to the last round, and we're back to having that big wide open space between the two beads where I'm going to put two beads in to make that corner. Now, why do I say this is the last round? Because you'll see when I finish this all the way around how these two beads fit right in between this bead. So if I did another round, it would be this round. Whoops. This round of light beads would be duplicated over on this side, and they wouldn't interlock with each other. So I'm doing one less round on this side than I did on the other side. So I'm going to finish this around, and then we just interweave the two sides together. Okay, so now that my two sides are done, and you can see how these beads are not equal to each other. I've got one that fits inside the middle of the other two. So that will allow me to go around and weave these beads together. And so there we have it, our square. And so now if you want to, I'm gonna add some extra beads in between these two beads. On my blue one, it was these black beads that I added in. So on this one, I'm gonna add in these dark green beads. There we go. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed this video on how to make a square. And as always, I invite you to come bead with me.